everybody, to the HolloTalk podcast. This is Jetpack Nick, and I'm here with a very, very, very special guest, my guy, Jason Brown. Say what's up to the people.
What up, y'all? What's good? Thanks, Nick, for having me coming through. Definitely appreciate the time. Hoping we can get a good recording out of this.
No, absolutely, man. Absolutely. So first, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm tired. I've been up almost 2 days straight. I just threw an event in downtown LA. So it went from Friday to Sunday nonstop. And it was pretty much a downtown LA warehouse rave.
Okay. Oh, you
But
had a rave.
yeah, that's how that's a business that I have.
Okay.
And a brand that I have. So I flew into town for that and about to fly back out to Atlanta.
Okay. So I guess you kind of just jump right into it. So for the people
Yeah.
who don't know who you are, can you let them know who you are, what you're about, and what you do?
Yeah, I basically I consider myself an entrepreneur. I got so many hats. I run a rave brand, and I'm actually also a student. I should add that too.
Oh, you're in
But
school.
yeah, currently in school. Yeah,
What you
but
studying?
I'm studying audio engineering.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's quite interesting now that artificial intelligence is taking over a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But I mainly try and focus in the film and music world.
Okay. So this is all up my alley.
Okay, hit me with it.
No, so okay, so like for the people who listen to the Hollow Talk podcast, they know that I'm a super, super duper music connoisseur. And I
All right.
also I also act too, and I'm actually in a program to learn more about acting and directing my own films.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
so we up the same alley, my man.
Absolutely.
No, but
hmm
please do tell me more about everything that you got going on and all the stuff that you're involved in.
Uh, well, I sit on my family's foundation, the James Brown Family Foundation,
Oh yeah,
where
the
we.
people didn't even know that. Let them know.
Yeah, no, throwing it in there.
Yeah.
So, my mother started a foundation in my grandfather's name and a school in his name called the James Brown Academy of Music, and I sit on the board of that.
Okay.
We're planning a birthday tribute of his, hosted by us. The first one that we're doing is in Atlanta. I'm working on that currently with my
Okay.
family. Outside of my events that I do, I'm looking at doing another international one. I've done the Dominican Republic and we've done Colombia, and we're thinking about doing Brazil for the next one. So
Wow.
I pretty much take some of my DJs from my rave brand, and we go out and do like a mini tour, or I'll maybe like buy out a hotel or something like that, and we book all the rooms and have a big rave pretty much for 3 days, but internationally. Yeah.
Damn. Can I come?
Hey, yeah, anytime, bro. You can come through. For the Cali stuff, you don't need your passport, but if you got your passport, you can come do that
I,
stuff too.
I have my passport, so
All right,
I
well,
will
you're good
be
to
on the
go.
way.
All right, you're good to go.
No, that's what's up, man. Yeah, it's, and forgive me for not even leading with that, ladies and gentlemen. This is James Brown's grandson. you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
we have history on the Hollow Talk podcast, and like for the people who know, like whenever I talk to different people who do music, or I just talk about the top fives and all that, James Brown is always in my top three, top two, number one sometimes, depending on
That's
who I'm
beautiful.
talking to. And
hmm
and and the reason being is because, like for me, like hip hop is like my thing. Like
hmm
I'm a student of music, but especially hip hop. And samples is something that like I really, really enjoyed, sample searching and all that type of stuff. And knowing that James Brown is the most sample artist in the history of hip hop, probably the history of music, I'm
hmm
sure. Like
Yeah,
it's, he's always had like a special place for me because of the fact that his music is so entrenched in the culture that I find myself in, and the culture that
yeah.
developed me into who I am. Like
hmm
always got to pay respect to James Brown for sure. So to have you on my platform and talking to you, like this is kind of like a full circle moment. And I'm not one to get emotional with that like that, but I always got to show love to the people that come on my platform because it's important for people to hear you, like hear your story, or any of the other guests I bring on, and just
Mhm.
to see how important it is to build this relationship and see how, you know, wonderful people are, honestly, if given the right opportunity to speak their truth and tell their story.
Yeah, well, hey man, I appreciate you giving me the time. I got a lot to say, or I think I got a lot of good insight for people that are trying to find themselves or trying to figure out who they are. Regardless, doesn't matter if you have a famous relative or not. You are important. You do have a purpose, and you're going to play your part in the position of the world. Period.
Absolutely. So I'm glad you brought that up. So I'm actually curious to know. So knowing that your grandfather is James Brown, right? Like, how have you been able to etch your own name as Jason Brown and kind of separate it from your grandfather?
I do have my own, like for example, electronic music rave brand,
Right.
and that's kind of like my rock and roll, my own rock and roll. Um, I started it during the pandemic,
Okay.
and yeah, I was throwing parties during the pandemic. Didn't really agree with all of the government and CDC and what was really being put
Right.
out. And my friend has 40 acres up in Lancaster, so back at that time, you were doing parties with, or you were doing these 6 feet rule things,
Yeah.
and with 40 acres, you got a lot of 6 feet. So we continued doing what we do. We were out away from people, but there was a big need for parties at that time, and you
Hmm.
would consider that all underground. And that's what I did, and I kind of took advantage of it, and it actually worked out for me. And it's been a steady business for me ever since the pandemic.
Okay. All right. Then, so tell me more about raves, because me personally, I've never been to a rave. I've been to regular parties.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
like what's the difference you would say between a rave versus a regular party?
That's a good question. In my opinion, now a lot of days raves just are regular parties.
Okay.
It's kind of the same, but I I technically would attribute that to the type of music that's being played, and then how long you're going.
Okay.
What can, in my opinion, consider it a rave. It doesn't really fully matter what type of music, but generally that's what people want to attribute the electronic sound is rave music. But I think it's funny because you can do an all reggae festival and they call it a festival,
Right.
right? So when it comes to electronic music, it's in its own lane. They call it a rave.
Okay. So at least from what I'm hearing, like they all just have like it's like the same thing but just with different names.
Same thing, different name, different people, but yeah, consider it a mini festival versus a party. A party could last just 6 hours, but like I
Right.
said, my rave just went from Friday to Sunday
For
nonstop.
two
So
full days.
you have to have an edge, or you have to bring something that's diagonal or a little bit different to the table
I got you. Okay, so
in
so
order to
you
make it a rave.
oh no, for sure. So like you being in this space, like what do you do to differentiate yourself from other rave DJs?
You know what? I try and stay sober. That's different. You know,
That's a big one.
yeah. My birthday is actually on April 20th, so
Okay.
I resemble more of the Rastafarian life than anything
Hmm.
else in regards to that. But I I would say being a little bit more sober than everybody else. I'm slowing down on the drinking since I had a son, and I seen
Oh,
he's starting to crawl
congratulations, man.
now. Yeah, thank you. He's 7 months. He's starting to crawl now. So yeah, the overall situation on that is I'm just growing now that I have a son and trying to mature, and hopefully and I think picking up kind of where I left off, the difference doesn't really matter the music. It usually it gets attributed to that, but it's more about the type of people and how long the party goes for. That separates a rave, in my opinion, versus just a regular party.
Yeah, see, for me, I don't know if I can party for 2 whole days.
Mhm.
I mean, I like honestly, like how do you even party for 2 whole days? Like, what does that even look
Well,
like?
you don't. You technically you don't. Like I said, I stay sober. A lot of times I work the door, so I handle
Okay.
cash. And don't get me wrong, I used to start off, you know, getting lit when I was throwing events. I used to get as drunk as everybody, but you ultimately learn it's a business,
Right.
and you learn more about mistakes. You learn about trust issues, or you delegate certain jobs to people,
Hmm.
and they may not perform how you may have wanted it, and especially in regards to money, right, or
Oh
money
yeah, for sure.
handling. So I usually stay up so that I can work the door. And I try not to get too lit while I'm just sitting there chilling, waiting for people to come in and out. Um, but you have to, because you're dealing with people. They're
Hmm.
trying to lie to you. Oh, I'm connected to this person, or negotiate, and it's like, yo, bro, we spent a lot on this venue. Let's just pay up, and we'll be good to go. You get your wristband, you'll get in. You don't have to lie. Let's have a good time. So a lot of times you're dealing with money, and it's a negotiation every time someone steps to the door.
Yeah. I can only imagine like a rave being millions of people, basically.
Oh,
Like one of the
I'm
biggest
not
festivals
EDC
ever.
yet, but look at what I do as a very like a mini Burning Man.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, see, because like I said, I'm only going based off of like what I've seen on TV or like I've seen on social media and stuff like that, and like the stuff I be seeing be like mosh pits and all types of crazy shit. And for
Right.
me, that ain't the way I party. So,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah,
know,
I'm not a mosh pitter either. I usually like variations of house music,
yeah,
and some drum and bass, and but my crowd, they may like it, and I don't judge. If they're paying to come in, then
for sure.
then hopefully they're having a good time, and the music's satisfying. Really.
Okay. So outside of that, do you play any other instruments or like
No,
into
I
any
don't.
other
I just
instrumentation?
I just DJ.
Okay. Okay.
Mm.
How long you been DJing?
Since 2014. I think I was about
Mm,
24 when I started. 23, 24.
okay. And getting into
And I'm 32
DJing.
now.
Oh, okay. Shouts out to
Yeah.
the old head, man.
Yeah. Hey, OG, man. Sometimes people don't make it to see 30s, to be
No,
honest
that's
with
a
you. So,
fact, man, for sure. That's definitely a blessing, man.
yeah, for sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Okay, so how did you get into DJing?
I was actually working on Get On Up, which
Really?
was my granddad's movie. Yeah. And I worked with Chadwick Boseman, Mick
Shouts out to
Jagger, and
Chadwick
like
Boseman.
everybody that was on that film, I was there for it. And I got inspired to pick up some type of music and take it a bit more serious. And classical instrumentation is a little bit more on the boring side for me. So DJing, you can throw any vibe in from anywhere and kind of make it all work, and that kind of encompasses a bit more of who I am as an artist, I think.
Okay, so all right, so we not about to just go past what you just said. You said you
Okay,
worked
go
on
ahead.
Get On Up.
Yeah,
Okay, so for me, this is one of my favorite biopics of all time. This
really.
shouts out to Chadwick Boseman. I actually just put my mom onto the movie because she said she
Okay,
never seen it, so I was
okay.
actually putting her onto the film. But yeah, that's one of the greatest biopics of all time to me because Chadwick Boseman really just like he really became James Brown. It was the greatest shit I've ever seen.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
you worked on it though. In what
Yeah.
capacity did you work on Get On Up?
I was like the whole movie consultant on it. I
What?
was actually it was actually my first movie, although I went to college for film production. Um,
Where'd you go?
I went to SCAD,
Really?
Savannah College of Art and Design.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, 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 I'm all ears.
Okay, and that was that was. Hey, Mr. Virgil, how you doing? That was really my first and only movie. Um, and because I kind of got the best of both worlds when I worked on my first movie, which was my
Mm,
grandfather's movie.
right.
So it wasn't a piece of cake. I would say that the film production kind of treated me just like, one of the stars, if not really, because I was really a production assistant,
Mm-hmm.
and I always stayed humble, but it wasn't the normal working on set experience. I still had a few cookie cutter rights here and there, and it was fun for the most part. It was very surreal because you're working on a movie about your family, and certain parts of real life have to be cut out in order to make it all work, and certain parts have to be added in to make it work. So a lot of uh, positive things about my grandfather and family, and a lot of negative things too that kind of gelled in,
Mm-hmm.
that you as a grandchild have to work with when other professionals are working with it, trying to make a whole movie.
Right.
Is an experience for me, so I'm torn, and not in bad ways, but in learning ways of how to communicate with business people about things that are personal to me. But then I'm speaking to my family and letting them know what's happening, and try not to tell them to take certain things personal. We're making a movie. It's just art. There's a lot of subjective things that are going to be in the movie
Mm-hmm.
that aren't going to be in the movie. And so it was a learning process in general, because it was my first movie, but at the same time it showed me what Hollywood was built on, and it's really built on somewhat of a classist system.
Okay.
And I learned, I don't want to work hard anymore. Even if that was my granddad's movie, that'll probably be my last movie. Because
Really?
when I went to film school, and after I did my granddad's movie, I didn't want to work on film anymore. That was like the peak of what I wanted to do. Even if I worked on a Star Wars movie, I would have probably stopped after I did my own granddad's movie.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a thing to me. After the movie was over, I kind of peaked out working on film production, and then went into the music thing.
Okay. Wow. Wow. Okay, so being that you like feel like you I don't even want to say peak because that's not the right terminology I want to use per se,
Okay.
but you basically reached like the pinnacle of what you wanted to do on the first one, right? Because not too many people get an opportunity to do that, like in any medium for that matter,
Yeah.
let alone filming. But like it it's so many stories to be told, and I'm pretty sure it's like so many more stories to be told about your grandfather that you could possibly be a part of that that Get On Up may not have touched on. So
Right.
if those stories are presented to you, or that's something that you might want to tell at some point later on in life, is that something that you see yourself getting into and trying to
Yeah.
pursue again?
I have a cartoon that I'm developing
Really?
where I turn my grandfather into a superhero, and he's got a magical cape, which was true because he had a cape routine,
Right.
and he's got a private jet with a time machine in it. So he's able to go in the past and in the future and make history or the future funky again, whether you knew it or not. James Brown had something to do with it, and that's pretty much the premise of the cartoons. So that's coming, and it'll take some years to come out, but that's in development, believe it or not. And not that it's in greenlit development, but
Hmm.
I'm in the process of trying to shop it, sell it, pitch it, put it together, and do again one of those pinnacle things that after I do it, I might not want to do it again. It's like, all right, well, I sold a cartoon idea that I had of my granddad. Now, what's next? I want to do some James Brown merch, or I want to do some James Brown costumes and put
Hmm.
them out during Halloween. I don't care. James Brown shoe line, a wig line, it doesn't matter.
No, that's
So
dope, man.
that's my goal, is to I would like to be a part of my granddad's legacy and putting out his
Hmm.
products. But for myself, whatever that product may be, it kind of peaks up for me, and I'm ready to move on to a whole nother thing. But do it and learn through the history and legacy of my granddad.
Right. Okay, so like outside of like just working on any projects related to your grandfather, like is there any other stories that you would want to tell, or like any concepts that you would want to bring to life, whether that's in cartoon form or in film form?
Yeah, there's a lot of little things. For example, you mentioned how Granddaddy's the most sampled musician in the world,
Yes.
and that's not just hip hop. That's music in
Right.
general. Hip hop is music, as
Hmm.
though some people may not want to admit to that. But it's kind of like how streams are clicks and plays. You
Right.
know, back then nobody was ever counting how many times you press play on your CD player.
Hmm.
But technically, a stream is kind of doing that. You know, now that no one sells CD players anymore, and you don't walk around with an unmonitored device that says, "Hey, you click this at this time and listen to it for how long." But anyway, it goes. It kind of goes back to that. You know, you're doing something that that is rare, but could always build and never really go away. Some stories, I don't know. I got to be honest and say that I'm trying to save them for my cartoon. But there are stories like that of who my grandfather influenced and how they influenced them. And then you kind of do a deep dive. So not a lot of people know this, but one legend sampling another legend, Bob Marley actually redid Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud. And he has his own version of Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud. And I didn't know this
I didn't know
until,
this until right now.
yeah, I didn't know this until I met two of Bob's sons. I met Damian Marley and I met Stephen Marley.
Shouts out to both of them.
Yeah, yeah. And so I meet Damian at the Sunset Marquee. We connect. And whenever I'm in Miami, I link up with him and his brother. We go over to
Hmm.
Steve's house and we jam out in the studio and I play some of my granddad's stems, right? Um, and then they play the song, which is pretty much Bob Marley's Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud version. And I was kind of blown away. So things like that I would like to put in the cartoon, but to mainly show who my granddad was to the new generation. Because people in your 30s and up really know who James Brown is, but
Yeah.
people's in your 25s and younger perhaps may not know who he is or the accomplishments or the importance of him. So that's something that I think is my job that I have to kind of reel back into the world and make happen.
No, well, see, because I'm 25, right? So,
Okay.
like I said, I'm not the average like in like early mid 20s music lover. Like I'm like really, really, really old school when it comes to the stuff that I like, and I don't mind going back in time to like learn about the history of music because like just like anything in the world, everything is recycled in some form of fashion. So I like
True.
to know where the inception of something started and then how it transformed into what we listen to today or what we watch today or the
Right.
movements and just the cultural quirks, if you will.
Right.
So for me, like just hearing stuff like that and you even bringing up the idea of like you want to be able to tell stories that can relate to the younger generation to show the accomplishments and show the influence of James Brown or the people that he influenced and then they influenced the next generation, so on and so forth. Like
Right.
I also feel like I hold this spot to be able to help drive that point too by
Beautiful.
bringing you on the HolloTalk podcast and having you tell these stories and share these wonderful things. And we'll get into some of the stories that you might want to tell about your granddad or some of
Mm-hmm.
the stories that you might know other people have told about him, your favorite stories or whatever. But like I said, I hold a really important part in the culture as well because I know a lot of mediums and a lot of forums and formats don't really hold the culture close like they should or like they say that they do. And me being one of those people who's really really entrenched in the culture and is really a part of the people and I stand 10 toes down with it. I think it's important for me to not only shed my knowledge on what I know about the culture, but also bring in people who are a part of that culture as well and have made a really, really big impact on the culture that has set the world up for what it is now.
That's beautiful. Yeah, man. We as Black people are culture, you
Absolutely.
know, and a lot of times, um, it can get lost in his story or
Mm-hmm.
translation, and we got to remember a lot of times that we are Black inventors. We are invention, you know. So don't um or I won't say don't, but try not to forget the sources and show homage, and uh show that nothing really is new under the sun. It's just got
Mm-hmm.
another name and another system.
Yeah.
So I commend you for that, and I definitely feel that because you know, when people talk about real music, they talk about James Brown. They talk
Mm-hmm.
about the influence of what he's done and how he changed the processing of modern music, going from the 2 and the 4 to the 1 and the 3.
Yeah.
So things like that are things that what I would want the younger generation to understand, because um, if they didn't know that, we probably would, or not that they didn't know, but if music didn't change that way, we wouldn't listen to it the way that we do now.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
That is 100% fact. Because like when I was in middle school and high school, like I was a drummer. So, going through the process of just like going through history and, like seeing who the dopest drummers was, Art Blakey's, and, shouts out to Clyde Stubblefield. And
Clyde
Clyde was like the one for me, hearing funky drummer for the first time. I'm like,
Right.
what the fuck is happening?
Right.
And then like going through the process of learning, like, oh, like this is like the most sampled drum break ever. Like,
That's probably the most sampled piece of music ever.
right, right. So just knowing like, oh, like this is like something that's historic and something I could learn from. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've practiced funky drummer like on a drum set when
Right.
I was in school. So
That's
like
love.
so like I said, like for me personally, like this is a personal full circle moment for me. And like I've talked to a lot of people, but like this is some next level type shit. Like I'm talking to the literal grids of probably the most important musician in the history of music. So like
Okay. Well,
so so
that's
so like, I made it basically. You know what I'm saying?
well, hey, don't consider me a step of making it. Consider it, you know, we're looking at each other eye to eye, whether that's digital, or if you're standing right here, or if you're a prompt teleportation or
Mm,
teleporter from Star Wars, and you just pop up in a screen and holograph right here. We're still on the same plane. We're still on Earth. We're still trying to make it to a higher thought process,
mm-hmm.
consciousness, and be at a level of peace and no more violence. And hopefully, uh, the true history and realism of music helps mankind as it does today to get right on that better page of like peace and love.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, you know, human growth in general. You know, music to this day has really controlled the minds of people, which is what
Mm-hmm.
my cartoon is about. Um,
Right.
hence hence the name of it would be the Godfather of Souls with an S.
Mm,
So, yeah. So
mm,
since James Brown is the most sampled artist, he's touched a lot of people,
of
and
course.
so that's why he's called the Godfather of Souls in the cartoon.
No, and it's actually important that you even brought that up too, because like for me, like music is the most understood language. Like there's like you can literally go to any place on earth and play music and people will rap it or sing it word for word and don't even speak the language, right?
Right.
Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just the universal language. And for people to understand how important music is, like the process of making it, putting it out, promotion of it, all that becomes more intrinsic, if you will, as far as like the idea of what you want to put out and how you want to put your soul and effort into it instead of just making some microwave bullshit.
You know it, and you know, a lot of times people call stuff microwave, but look what Soldier Boy did. A lot of that was
Right,
considered
right.
microwave. Even what my grandfather was doing, jazz was the leading sound at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Funk and soul was considered the devil's music,
Right.
because you're really using gospel music to create love songs, and love hints on sex. The opposite of that is violence.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've kind of been turned this way as far as Black people. As far as African people, we've kind of been shifted, or we've been colonized, or we've been whitewashed, and really our most heartfelt music isn't being put out. It's our most profitable music that's being put
Mm-hmm.
out.
Which in turn puts out our most traumatic music. It's been a
Boom.
lot of
And so,
profits off of traumatic experiences.
right. And so music isn't the same way. Music is not on the same frequency that it used to
Mm-hmm.
be.
Right.
And it's touching us in different ways, where it used to touch us to, you know, another inside of my cartoon. Granddaddy is dealing with
Mm-hmm.
the man like from the 60s
Yeah.
and 70s. And so they're trying to uh, keep my grandfather infiltrated with a lot of women, or trying to get him to make a whole lot of soul and love songs so that the world can populate and have a whole lot of people to set up an army for a huge galactic war, right? But wait till the cartoon is out. I'm dropping a lot of gems in as
No, for
far as
sure.
that
We
goes. So
we go we we
to
go
make
we gonna
my
take
whole
a little.
psyche make sense.
No, that's a fact because we're gonna take a little break and then we're gonna come right back with more of the How Talk podcast and we can keep dropping gems. I appreciate you, my brother. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the How Talk podcast with Jetpack Nick and my God, Jason Brown.
Yo, yo.
All right. So before we, took our break, we was talking, more about your cartoon and everything. And for me personally, I'm really excited for that because, that's something I always wanted to do too. Like I said, I act as well. So, I've did a film before. I've done theater. I haven't done cartoons and voice acting yet. So I want to try
Okay,
something
well,
like
hey, man, send
that.
me a demo of a few voices and we can make it happen.
You know what I'm saying? I want to play one of the historical figures that James Brown saves.
Okay, hell yeah. Yo, send me some voices. Let's see if we can make it all work.
No, I got you. So, earlier in the episode, we was talking about SCAD. You had did some study in that SCAD. What was your degree in the SCAD?
Film production.
Okay, so with film production, right? Like, how do you see yourself making more of an impact in film? Like, do you want to act? Do you want to just work behind the scenes? Like, what do you want to do?
If I worked in film, it would have to be behind the scenes. I'm
Okay.
not in front of the person, in front of the camera person. So currently, I'm not working on classical film production
Hmm.
style. I'm interested in animation,
Okay.
although that's still kind of classical film
Yeah.
production style when you think about it, but modern animation.
Okay. All right, because and the reason I'm asking this is because like I said, I didn't go to school specifically for like acting or film or anything like that. Like I think I went to school for business. I got my degree in business, but like I always did the electives or I did like the clubs, drama club, theater things of that nature. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm in a program where I'm learning more about acting and more about directing. So, you know, I, I'm trying to gain some knowledge from somebody who's been a part of a major film such as Get On Up.
Well, film production is one of those things where it's if you're what type of person are you? Do you like to work long hours? Do you mind being indoors or outdoor? Do you like being outdoors?
Uh,
You like standing on your feet? You like dealing with a lot of personalities. But then again, the good side is you like learning new systems? You like meeting a lot of new people? Do you like building stuff? There's a lot of building when it comes to production. Um, just you like coordinating. There's so much managerial things that go on with film production, and then there's actually the artistic acting side where you're
Right.
when you're putting the art pieces to it, but it's mainly business.
Yeah. Okay. And you've been around like some of the greatest actors of our time, a la Chadwick Boseman and stuff like that. So like how have you been around, people of that quality of acting skills and not be interested in acting? I'm curious to know that.
Personally, I got a scar on my lip right here, so I'm a little self conscious about being in front of the camera, and I think I'm ugly. So
No, man.
that's
No.
enough. That's enough to get somebody out of their comfort zone. Um, I've done the acting class too, and I think it's fun to act and to kind of just play along, right?
Yeah,
Everybody's an actor at some point,
for sure.
when your crush walks in, you're acting, you know. So that's what I would describe acting. When I was directing films, and if you want to get into film and you're starting off, the best thing to do is student films
Hmm.
because it's not a huge list of actors that want to get on, and you're easier to get a role, and you're easier. It's easier for you to get a lot more roles. So yeah, it's like that. I I kind of forgot what I was saying. What was I saying about
No, you were saying to get into films, like you should start
Yeah,
off
so you
with
get in the
student
film.
role.
There's just so many ways of doing it. Either going to be in front of the camera or behind. There's
Hmm.
more ways getting in behind, but in
Yeah.
front there's lots of ways too, and it all depends on what level you want to get to. You want to get to the Hollywood, you want to get to Nollywood, you want to get to Stream World, or you want to do Blockbuster or what?
Uh, is this a rhetorical question?
Well, yeah. Like what type of the business do you want to get into when it comes to the art of film production?
Me personally, I think I think I want to reach the highest levels I could possibly reach. I don't think I get into anything like to do it to a lower level than the highest level possible. Like we all want to reach the pinnacle for the most part in some form or fashion. So, to answer that question, I would say reach the top.
All right. Well, hey, my dude, I'm gonna be honest with you. If you want to reach the top in acting, all you got to do is build a portfolio, and the more people will keep calling you and calling you. If Are you going to be known as Nick Holloman with the podcast, or Nick Holloman with the acting career?
I mean, see, and I've thought a lot about this question actually, honestly.
Because the world is based on what people know you as.
Yeah, yeah,
That's how you grow, right? If you stay consistent with something, people are like, oh, that's Nick from the podcast,
yeah.
right? So
I'm gonna actually try to answer this question. So I think I just I want to be known as a creator, like not one specific thing, because I'm not one specific thing when it comes to the creative arts. Like I said, I do the podcast, act, currently working on being able to direct films. Um, I do some work on the music side, whether that's on the microphone or off the microphone. We ain't talking about that. We could talk about that too if you would like.
mhm.
Yeah, so I do a lot of different things like in that space and even outside of that space as well. So and I'm a jack of all trades, if
I
you
hear
will.
you, but let's be straight up. It's hard to get noticed for all of it,
That's true.
right? Like, um, you know, it's shit, but it's easy to transition when you're known for something,
Yeah.
like rapper, actor.
Mm-hmm. I see.
You
You
know,
see, this is good information for the people.
someone's like, "Oh, I'm a," they're a famous rapper. Well, hey, let's put him in a movie. We need him for the numbers. So now
Hmm.
you're an actor.
Yeah.
But my point is that you got to be known for one thing, and then all the other stuff kind of grows from that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think at the moment now, like the podcast is probably what I'm most known for as far as like creatively, because like the movie that I did a little while ago, it hasn't come out yet, so people don't know me as an actor quite just yet, unless you've been on set with me or like you've had that experience in that space with me before. But like to the average person, they don't know me as an actor quite just yet until the film comes out. Um,
Right.
but everybody has seen me or has heard me, you know, on the podcast before, on the HolloTalk podcast or any other podcast that I've worked on previously. So I think that's the driving force behind everything. And then with the platform of the podcast, then I can introduce everybody else to all of the other things that I do as a creative.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I guess podcaster at the moment would be the driving force of my creative name, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that'll do it. And it's all got to branch off from something that people can stick with and relate you to, and then it's like, oh well, yeah, let's if he can do that, let's try him with this. If he can do that, let's try him with this, and then it just all grows.
And not for nothing too, I do think that a lot of uh my desire to grow as a creative comes from these conversations that I had with all of my guests or just people in these spaces, like, you know, talking to you. Like, who would have like ever thought that I would be talking to James Brown's grandson, like the one and only Jason Brown, you feel me? And really be, you know, talking about some real life stuff, like, you know, just things that you've experienced that not too many people have the opportunity to hear about or learn about. And we're doing this on my platform. Like we could
Right,
have done this shit anywhere. Like we could have just
right,
met in the street and talked on the street, and nobody would have ever heard this conversation other than me and you. But we're
right.
doing this on the HolloTalk podcast. Jetpack
Yes,
Nick
Hollow
and
Talk.
Jason Brown, man.
Hey, Hollow Talk. We here. Thank you for having me, Nick. Man, it's been good so far. Let's keep it going.
No, for sure, man. You know, so I'm actually, you know, curious to know, and I think that this is like the part of every podcast that people like to hear about. So, you know, being that James Brown is your grandfather, I'm pretty sure there's so many different, amazing, wonderful, fun stories that is you know that people have about him. So the first question I have is, what's some of the most memorable or fun stories that you could tell about your grandfather? And the second question is, what are some of the most fun and entertaining stories that other people tell about your grandfather that you know?
Uh, well, for me, um, thinking back when Granddaddy was alive, it was always good to be around him because he held the room
Mm-hmm.
and everyone shut up. Nobody said a word. It was always hard to understand Granddaddy when he spoke because his voice was so battered and broken up. But the more you hung around him, the more you understood how country he was, and then he didn't mean anything by it. It's just that he's trying to get his point across to you
Mm-hmm.
in any way possible. But um, you know, I think being around my grandfather, I really understood what the Hollywood mentality is like, or what it's like to be around a leader
Mm-hmm.
when people follow along out of respect or out of the business or just out of love, you know, all of which are different. Business, respect, and love, I wouldn't put in the same jar. You know, I would like to keep them separate. And I think that I've kind of learned a little bit of those three things importantly through my grandfather, either being around him or being related to him.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And you know, that's actually interesting too, because that's something that I don't think a lot of people really understand or even have the presence to know a lot about when it comes to, you know, being in these circles and seeing the different things and seeing how that world moves if you're not a part of that world. Going into that world, that can be a completely different experience, and you can get swallowed up very easy if you don't know the angles, you don't know the ins and outs, you don't know what to look for, and being able to maintain your individualism and who you are as a person, being in that crazy world is something that not too many people do, but when you do, you know, come across those people, you know, you hold on to them for dear life. And to that point, is there like any people that you've met in that space that have maintained that level of realness, if you will?
Yeah, realness, you know, realness is a very piercing bullet in what I consider Hollywood industry
Mm-hmm.
or media industry. You can be in the media industry, but not be in the Hollywood industry,
Right.
right? And it may have its levels, but people usually have their own egos or they have their own perceptions of themselves or how they want to be perceived. And I think Hollywood generally plays along with it.
Mm.
Whether you agree with certain things or the way certain people live or how they go about life or what they may have said or done in life, that doesn't matter. You know, what matters is at the time, if you're going to involve yourself with this person, are you trying to come up off of them? Are you trying to be yourself around them no matter what? Or are you going to work the job and just not take it so serious? Or are you going to, try and take that and become yourself? So I think a lot of what we're talking about has to do with, you know, like you said, the people that you come across.
Mm-hmm.
I've come across some real legit people. I mean, I've met some big I've met some of the biggest celebrities to the lowest celebrities. I say, you know, a lower celebrity as just an in fame and population,
Mm.
popularity, right? But uh, I got to really know some actors and musicians when I worked on Get On Up, when I worked on my
Right.
granddad's movie. I got to really know Chadwick. I was getting to know Nelson Ellis.
Mm-hmm.
Rest in peace to him.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
Rest in peace to both of them.
yes, to both of them. As a matter of fact, and that's unfortunate that I said just to one of them because I think Chadwick became a bigger popularity, famous celebrity, and
Huge, man.
lives a little bit. He lives a little bit longer based
Yeah.
off of that. Not to take anything from Nelson. I just think that that's just the world we live in.
Yeah.
And so you want to, no matter what, how big they are, you want to always be around legit people that are going to respond to your texts or
Right.
calls
Right.
when you're not. Now, I'm not trying to say you should be annoying people or hitting people up when you have nothing to offer. Always bring something to the table so that you can have a relationship with somebody. But shout outs to some of my famous people that don't have to text you back because they got all these people hitting them up. But I've always been cool with Craig Robinson.
Shouts out to Craig
Um,
Robinson for sure.
yeah, I always been cool with him. And he worked on Get On Up,
Yeah,
which
he
is
did.
something that I always take to heart. Uh, you know, I not that I've met this person on that set, but Flex Alexander,
Yeah. Yeah.
one of the most humble guys that's a celebrity that I've ever met for sure. Um, he and we've had some times where I was showing him some ropes when it came to DJing,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So when you have real moments with people, you realize that it's not about the camera, lights, action. It's, hey, this is a business and I'm a real person too. Treat me like such. I'll treat you like such. And when we get around each other, when it's time to be in the corporate office, it's the same thing, just like being in front of industry people.
Right.
You know, you got to put on for looking nice, just like you go home and put on your nice clothes before you step out and go to church. It's the
Mm-hmm.
same type of thing. But sometimes the church says, hey, come as you are. And that's kind of the type of person I am. I would rather you be who you are no matter what, not change up when you get around industry people or Hollywood people, actors, musicians, things like that. Just always be who you are. And a lot of times you'll reflect the same type of person, whether they are famous or not.
Yeah, and I do think that that's something that like I've began to understand, especially doing the podcast and talking to so many different people from so many different backgrounds, so many different levels of status or celebrity, if you will. Like I've always led with I've always led with the sense of this is who I am. Like in any room that
Yes.
I step foot in, any conversation I had with anybody, like I've never been naive to the fact that everybody has something to teach you. You can learn from everyone, as far as anything. Like it doesn't have to be like about, film or music or whatever we're talking about now. And it could just be about some real life shit. And
100%.
and being that that's something that I definitely try to make known from the time that we start talking to the journey of our friendship or whatever the case may be. Like I never want you to be like, damn, like I'm unsure like how Nick feels. Like I don't know if he fuck with me today. Like, no, I fuck with you. You know what I'm saying? Like always and forever. Just don't do no weird shit.
Right, right. Yeah, no, I mean, that sounds like you have a perception of I trust you, you're a good person until you show me otherwise.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
But like, let me ask this question. So, being that that's like a thing that some people do, right? Sometimes you can get burned by that, though, right? And being in certain types of circles, you have no room to get burned by anyone. So,
Well,
okay. I'm sorry.
well, that's called I would consider that labeling,
Okay.
because once like like for example, Kanye West says something bad and then
Hmm.
everyone labels him as whatever.
Right.
When are you when a lot of times you're listening to somebody else's perception and you should do your own research and get your own vibes from somebody to see who they really are, you know. And you ever heard the saying that we're really three people, three or four people? Like the person at sometimes we're a different person when we get around people,
Hmm.
and then we get around we're a different person when we get around our family and friends, and then we're a different person when we're alone,
Right.
when it's just us in the mirror,
Hmm.
or it's just us laying down in bed. So it's just overall, you got to decide what type of person you're going to be and utilize all of these steps it takes to get to the best person of you.
So do you feel like you've reached that level at the point of life that you're at right now, being
No,
that
no, no, no.
okay.
I think that where I am in life, there's always more development. As
Okay.
anybody, I just had a son. He's 7 months old,
Yeah.
and that's always going to be developing. And there's always a sacrifice. There's always something that's bigger than you. There's always something that's bigger than you. So I think uh, there's always time to make things right, but we got to do what we can to make the right choices and be around the right people. But that usually means being around the right people. Nobody can really do something alone. We got to include, show love, and usually, like I said, love wins. So
Yeah.
if we can do that, we'll we'll generally find the answers to our questions.
And I'm happy that you actually even mentioned that or brought that up, that you can't do anything alone, because the perception or the idea that like no nobody helped me when when I was coming up, and you know how like people always tell that lie.
Right.
like I get it, like most of the stuff that we do, like like it comes from an idea that we had, or like us being the ones that got to get up out the bed and do our thing every day or whatever. But the reality of it is, there's so many people that supported us throughout the journey. There's so many people that wished us well, prayed for us, like
Yes.
in any way that you can help somebody. Like we've been helped in some form or fashion. And I always want to take a moment to always thank my guests, always thank my team, always thank the listeners and the supporters, for supporting me, each and every week, each and every season, supporting my guests and everything, and seeing how that appreciation goes a very, very, very long way. Whereas saying, man, I did this on my own. I got Jason Brown to come on the podcast on my own. Like, you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like that, one, that's not true. And two, that's not something that I could ever just completely take credit for. Now, yeah, it is me by myself right now talking to you, having this wonderful, in-depth, dope ass conversation. But
Right.
I always got to shout out to the people that helped me get to this point, because I could have stopped season one, but why would I do that when I got people that really benefit from these conversations, and I also have so many people that support me by, one, coming on the podcast to talk to me, and two, pressing the button to listen to these conversations.
Right. Yeah. it's always a give or take of energy. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's like, hey, you give me something and just to make sure you're legit. Oh, all right, I'm gonna give you this too, just to make sure I'm legit. And it's always a tug of war or a ping pong, if you will, you know, but so long as people can do this, be themselves, tell the truth as much as you can, generally the best things get done.
Yeah, yeah, and like I said earlier in the episode, like this is a moment like in history, like this is a moment in time. Like we can always look back and be like, yo, like we've had this conversation. This is
100%.
so and not for nothing, like I don't expect this to be the last time I talk to you. Like we building, bro. Like
Yeah.
like we building a friendship, and I definitely would love to talk to you again, whether it's on the on the HolloTalk podcast or just in regular life. Come to one of the
Mhm.
raves, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I gotta come show love as you've shown love to me by coming on my platform and talking to me and expressing some of the things that you may not talk about, with family, let alone, with somebody you just talking to for the first time. So for that, I truly, truly appreciate you, and I'm thankful and blessed to, have you be a part of my journey.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely appreciate it, my dude.
Nah, yeah, man. Real quick, man. We talked about a lot of different things, and we talked about the legacy of the great incomparable James Brown, man. But I want to know a little bit more about what you got going on and what your plans look like as far as what you got going on with your businesses, with your music, and with your cartoon and may possibly upcoming films.
You know, ultimately, my goal is to expand my granddad's legacy to a younger generation. Uh, so, however I can do that, I'll make a job or I'll make a project. If I don't get anything out of it, I'll my goal was to just spread the knowledge of him and his accomplishments, so I can be satisfied. Outside of that, I look to be a good father, and no matter what that uh, means coming forward, whatever I have to do to show love to my son or uh, other situations, give more attention to things, to be a better provider is where I am now. So I think bettering myself, always learning, traveling,
Yeah,
getting new trades, so that no one can tell you something false or no one can overcharge you simply. That's what is happening around the world everywhere. There's always an overchargement, or there's
hmm
always a facade of what is real. And people are feeding you or selling you something else that is technically not exactly, but once you get it, you're supposed to get that perception. However, I want to be known for just facilitating honesty, truth, realism, love. And I think that music is one of those good ways to do so. Uh, Film, definitely more a deceptive type of media. And
absolutely.
people, for example, believe what they see on TV,
hmm
even if it's true or not.
That's a
People be
fact.
like, hey, did you see the movie? And like, people in the movie industry are like, the movie really, like, I worked on that movie and that shit was some bullshit, So uh it can the world can go either way. I think it's best for people to do their own research, get their own perception on stuff, regardless of what is put out there. Um, Try and get the best loving perception, and you'll generally, get the outcomes that you want with it, whether if it's with people or art,
hmm
your job. You just got to be real about the situation, and you'll, for the most part, be on the same page with all the other real people involving.
Okay, so even just talking about that, right? Like I kind of want to go back to get on up for a second, if we can
Okay.
do that, right? So yeah, like you said, like you said earlier, you work pretty hands on with the making of the film, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say you were the director, or you was the lead man making the entire film. What would you had done differently with Get On Up if you were making it?
Believe it or not, I wouldn't have picked Chad to be James
Really?
Brown. Yeah. Even though he did a
What?
great job. Yeah. And he was a great person, and he's highly talented and had an astounding work ethic. Um,
Who would you have chosen?
I would have chosen someone more life size for one, because
Well,
Chadwick was like 6'3",
okay.
and my granddad was 5'4".
Really? He was that little?
Yeah,
I didn't
so
know that.
um, that would have been. I probably would have at the time. I probably would have said somebody like Don Cheadle or Kevin Hart, even somebody
Kevin
really short
Hart. Wow.
who was really short like him. And yeah, I would have gone with something like that because I saw facial facial expressions were kind of making the same,
Mm-hmm.
and I want people to see James Brown when they do that film or when they watch that movie. I personally feel like um, people saw Chadwick playing James Brown
Mm-hmm.
do a good job, but they didn't see James Brown because my granddad was way more complicated than that. So being real and making things as real as possible is kind of like my sauce, because I like to be as real and straightforward, direct, sometimes too bluntly direct. But yeah, I like for example, I like documentaries more.
Right.
So when it came to Get On Up, there was a lot of Hollywood things happening as
Mm-hmm.
far as playing along with, stroking egos for certain people on set. But even they did that for me because I was the grandson of. So, but it was still a learning experience. I'll drop this gem on you just so you know. Uh, Universal or nobody in production initially paid for me to come out and work on the film. I
Really?
had to go out there myself. Yeah, I flew out there myself, me and my cousin, and we stayed in a motel. We didn't even stay in a nice hotel, right? So
Wow.
just to give you an understanding of no matter who you are, you still got to show up and show that you're capable, and then be known for something. And then people will start to gravitate. So even when it came to Get On Up, I had to prove that I was worthy of working on set all
Mm-hmm.
this time. I wasn't going to be a disruptive person. Um, I do feel like I had some given privileges that other people on set might have gotten fired for or gotten in trouble for. But since I was a grandson of, I was privy to some things. But that only showed me where people really were in my life,
Mm-hmm.
and how they viewed you, and how they view your people.
Right.
So, you know, a lot of it is it's just a ping system of, hey, you're this person, oh, I'm that person. You're doing that, oh, I don't do that, but you're gonna go that way, oh, all right, I'll go this way, cool. Well, hey, it was nice to meet you. Be safe, but no ill problems. But I'm just a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
So life in general, to me, and the things that I learned from that are, you know, don't get too attached to things that aren't really yours. Really try and develop yourself. Which is why I started picking up DJing
Mm-hmm.
while I'm getting up, because I feel like, man, I should learn some music. I should be able to express myself in another way rather than film production.
Right.
And that one of those things has become very healing for me as well.
Okay. I listen, man. I I'm happy that you were able to come out of that experience gaining knowledge and being able to become more of who you wanted to become from that point up until this point now. I think that that's something that's very important that you took those lessons and was able to become better because of that.
Yeah.
Um, You kind of answered my question that I had for you already, which was like what was like the one thing that you learned from that experience, or like what was like a piece of advice that helped you just move forward through life, better than you did then. But you kind of answered that already. So
Yeah, yeah, no lie, man. I would say that, don't take shit too personal.
yeah,
It's all life is really all business.
yeah.
And whether that's a business on money, emotions, or perception, some people gotta put down or invest in what they believe in. But so long as we do what's right, we generally, end up in the best situation. If we choose love over hate, we generally end up where we want to be.
That's a fact. All right, so we got a few minutes left, but I'm gonna get you out of here, man. Before you go, this is customary to the HolloTalk podcast. If you could provide the people with three gems that they could take away from this conversation, please do.
Yo, one, seek the realest people in your circle and try and surround yourself with people who don't just play along. And I know we're talking about Hollywood.
Hmm.
Find the people around you that aren't just going to be Hollywood around you. You're just around you because of one minute thing. Next is be known for something, right? If you want to do something, go out there, do it, and try and be the best, whatever that may be, and communicate with people as in the most professional level, so that whenever they see you for what you're known for, and then the other possibilities of you growing from that.
Hmm.
So you can be a professional podcast interviewer,
Hmm.
turn actor once you interview the right director or interview the right actor. But you got to be known for something, and then you'll be given a shot for something else.
Right.
Another gem, say my third one would
Yeah, it's
be
the third one.
I'll say it. I said it before. I'll say it again. Choose love over hate, or over violence, or
Hmm.
over manipulation. Uh, sometimes people think, "Oh, I'm not hating on you if I don't physically do anything to you."
Hmm.
No, when you think about your brothers, your sisters, especially for our Black people, we need each other. So don't be in competition with your brother. Love your brother, bring them up, and don't expect somebody to bring you up. You know, try and be humble, but never forget the people that did bring you up and that always were real with you and that always taught you something, because those are the people and those are the moments that really matter.
Hmm.
So when it comes to these gems, hold on to it, lock it up, put it in a pocket. Don't forget that it's love, it's being real, and it's connecting yourself with the right people that pretty much put you where you want to be.
All right. Well, y'all heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen, from the man himself, Mr. Jason Brown. My man, I want to thank you so much, bro. So much for coming on the Hollow Talk podcast and talking with me. Like I said, I would definitely could have talked to you for way longer, but I know you got rest up a little bit. You was out there partying for
Hey,
two
thank you,
whole
man.
days, man.
But you
You know
know
what I'm
what, bro? I
saying?
appreciate you, Nick. I'm a talker too. Great podcast. I could go for days, but
Oh, I'm gonna
you
definitely have
have
you back
you
on
got your system that you brought me into. You brought me into this world,
for
and I'm
sure.
just thankful for that.
No, absolutely. And as always, I want to thank the Hollow Talk podcast listeners and supporters for supporting us through and through. Appreciate y'all. Man, Jason, I appreciate you, bro. It's all love on this side from me to you. You know what I'm saying? Shouts out to you for just being dope, man, and
Yeah,
showing me
man. Thank you.
love, brother.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
So before we like officially wrap, is there anything you want to shout out? Drop your socials as well too, so people know where to find you.
Yeah. Thanks to Tavares for connecting us.
Yep. Shouts out to
You
TV.
know, behind the scenes stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the people that don't always get shouted out, but we wouldn't be connected if it wasn't for Tavares.
Absolutely.
So shout out to him. And you know what? That's really it. I think I want to keep it geared
All
to
right.
how we got connected, so that it all kind of relates and whatever I said doesn't get too much lost in translation. But hopefully we can connect again, do
Absolutely.
another podcast, and some time when things develop and grow in general.
All right. Well, listen, bro. I'm gonna talk to you when we get off record. Like this about to end, so I'm gonna say peace out now. Thank you again, bro. I appreciate you. It's like I said, it's all love from me to you. Shouts out to TV for connecting us, and shouts out to the HolloTalk podcast listeners and supporters for supporting us through and through. Peace and love, yo.
HolloTalk. Peace.
Peace.